No, this video is not clickbait. I genuinely believe that Gachiakuta is trash. And before you click off, I'm not just one of those people who just say that an anime is mid without giving my explanation or I explain why I think it's trash. I actually do have reasons. Some of my complaints are definitely nitpicks, I'll admit that, but they make for some fun conversation. The bigger issues though are from the story itself. The narrative, the characters, and the writing. There are so many problems that I just could not ignore them. Getting through this series is honestly a struggle for me. That said, I am going to finish it so I can make a full cave dive episode on this anime. Originally, that was all that I planned to do with Gachiakuta. Just wait until it's over and then I'll cover it all in one video. But the more I watched, the more issues that I found. And I realized that there was so much that I just couldn't unpack in a single video. So I wanted to dedicate an entire video on why this show doesn't work for me. Now, to be fair, there are a few things that I actually do like about this show. So let's start with the positives. First, the animation is genuinely good. It's incredibly stylistic, and the fight choreography is actually pretty interesting to watch. Second, the music absolutely crushes it. The mix of heavy metal and hip-hop gives the series a really unique identity. On top of that, the sound design itself is solid. The audio department is easily one of the strongest parts of the show. Another thing I have to praise is the character designs. Even the side characters look great, but the main cast especially all have their own distinct style. Everyone has a completely different vibe, and their outfits are memorable. Yeah, it doesn't exactly make sense that people living in a literal trash heap have this much drip, but I'm willing to overlook that because the designs are just that cool. I also really like Rudo's ability. The concept behind it is genuinely interesting, and it has the potential to create some really creative fights, especially if he keeps switching between different objects instead of relying on the same weapon every time. It makes him feel like a versatile fighter, but I think that's one of the show's strongest ideas. But that's pretty much where the compliments end. Everything else is where this show starts to lose me. We start off by getting introduced to what seems like this perfect little utopia. Right away, the story establishes one of its central ideas. Trash matters. When people throw something away, it doesn't just disappear, it eventually becomes something else. We don't know exactly what that means yet, but it will be important later. This is also where we're introduced to Rudo. He's basically a dumpster diver living in this town, and apparently that's one of the biggest taboos you can commit. After escaping from the authorities, he heads back to his little corner to repair the junk that he just collected. While he's working, he gets harassed by a group of people, and we learn a little bit about his past. His father was apparently a criminal who murdered someone and was executed by being thrown into the pit, which is this world's version of like a guillotine or, something like that. They don't behead you, they just throw you off the edge of the world. The only person who seems to genuinely care about Rudo is Chiwa. Throughout the episode, it is obvious that he has feelings for her, and he's fixing up this stuffed animal to give to her as a gift. We're also introduced to Regto, Rudo's father figure. We don't know much about him yet, besides the fact that he's been raising Rudo ever since his real father disappeared from the picture. He's mostly there to establish that Rudo has someone he looks up to. The episode gives us a little more exposition about the pit and why criminals are thrown into it, before Rudo finally works up the courage to give Chiwa the repaired plushie. It's a genuinely sweet scene. She accepts it, tells him that both she and Regto love him, and Rudo gets so overwhelmed with happiness that he runs off, excited to tell Regto what just happened. Then everything immediately falls apart. Rudo gets home and finds Regto murdered by a masked figure. Before he can even process what happened, he's framed for the crime, arrested almost immediately, and sentenced to be thrown into the pit. He begs Chiwa to help him, but she completely turns on him. She refuses to defend him, and before he's dropped, he catches another glimpse of the masked man, making it obvious that something much bigger is going on. After Rudo is thrown into the pit, he's consumed by rage. His new goal is simple: find a way back to the surface and destroy everything that took his life away from him. And as he's falling, he notices something strange off in the distance before finally landing at the bottom of the pit, which is a massive wasteland overflowing with trash and filled with monsters. And that's episode 1. Now, the way that I just summarized it actually makes it sound pretty decent. On paper, there's nothing obviously wrong about it, but in my opinion, the first episode completely falls apart in its execution. It was so incredibly hard for me to get past the first episode. It took me 4 times to rewatch it before I actually reached the end of the first episode. It was so unbearable. Every time that I just tried to watch it casually, especially with everyone online saying how amazing this show is, I had to turn it off. I just couldn't stay interested long enough to finish it. Eventually, I forced forced myself to keep going. I made it all the way up to episode 10, thinking to myself like, oh, maybe one day it'll click. Maybe some point in the story it's gonna get better. It never did. I am genuinely trying to like this series. Like I said, I'm still planning on finishing it so I can make my proper cave dive episode on it. But there's so many writing decisions, character choices, and character moments that just feel so fundamentally off to me that I had to just make a separate video talking about every single part that I found wrong. I simply can't ignore them anymore. Let's start with the opening scene. Right away, I can tell this is supposed to be a utopian society, and you know what? That's fine. I'm more than willing to suspend my disbelief if the story gives me a reason to. I'll even accept the idea that trash is completely forbidden in the upper city. Sure, in this world, garbage is taboo. Everyone's obsessed with keeping the city spotless, and maybe that's how they separate themselves with the lower class. Fine. Weird? Yes, but I'll go with it. Then we meet Rudo. He's basically a dumpster diver. He sneaks into the city's trash disposal area and starts digging through the garbage looking for anything useful. Just then, an officer spots him. Now, pause the video for a second. What do you think happens next? Does the officer A, tell him to leave, B, drag him out by force, C, ignore him because he doesn't want to get dirty, or D, pulls out a gun, threatens to kill him, sounds the alarm, a whole bunch of different officers show up, all of them pull out their firearm and immediately start shooting at him? If you pick D, congratulations, you're correct! That's actually what happens, and this is where the show already starts losing me. Again, I can suspend my disbelief. For example, The Hunger Games asks you to accept this ridiculous premise, and you can kind of go along with it. Like, the story establishes the rules well enough that you can just turn a blind eye to some parts. But here, though, you're telling me that touching trash is such an unforgivable crime that the first response is attempted execution on site? Not an arrest, not a warning, not even trying to detain him. We're only a few minutes into episode 1 and I'm already questioning how this world functions. This next one is definitely a nitpick, but it was scratching at the back of my head and I couldn't ignore it. Rudo doesn't get hit a single time while all of these officers are unloading on him. That's fine, anime works that way. We can clearly see that he's fast and agile and he manages to dodge everything and escape. But there's one specific shot where you can see every single bullet landing right at his feet as he's running in a straight line away from them. Now this is probably more of an animation direction problem, but given how far the officers are from Rudo, none of these bullets should be landing at his feet this perfectly. They should, in theory, be flying past him. Instead, every single one is tracking his feet with pinpoint accuracy. Okay, so I've got my lovely assistant over here, and the point I'm trying to point out is, if all of these officers, let's say you got 5 different officers, and they're shooting at this one person, you know, give or take, he is moving, but let's just say that they're trying to aim at him. Typically, they'd be aiming right around here. But according to the way they drew the fight, that would mean all of the officers were aiming right around here. So of course everyone's gonna miss. I know it's a small issue, but it's one of those things that I feel like the art director should have been able to catch. Now, like I said, it's a pure nitpick, but once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it, and I just had to mention it to you guys. Rudo finally explains why Regto meant so much to him, and the reason that he gives is the gloves. Regto gave him the gloves that hide his hands and help numb the pain. Rudo explicitly ties his entire debt and loyalty to the fact that someone handed him some gloves that make his hands hurt less. That should have been a small detail and a much bigger reason. Instead, the gloves are the entire reason. We see people bullying Rudo, and in the story it makes sense. People in this world are cruel. That's the point that they're trying to make. The one exception is Chiwa. She's set up as the only person who actually cares about him. She doesn't have any abilities, but she's written as loving and level-headed. When the bullies start harassing Rudo, she doesn't stand up to them in the moment, but as soon as they leave, she tells him not to listen to them. She says that she knows who he really is, that he's a good, caring person who would never do the things that they're accusing him of. Throughout the the episode, the show keeps reinforcing that she genuinely cares about him. Rudo clearly has feelings for her too, and in one of the last scenes that they share, she looks at him and says, "We love you," referring to both herself and Regto. It's a soft, sincere moment. Rudo gets flustered and runs off happy. It's one of the few scenes in the episode that actually feels warm. You know, then Regto is murdered and Rudo is framed, and then Shiwa does a complete 180. No hesitation, no internal conflict, no moment of, this can't be right, I know him. She just turns on him completely. She's disgusted. She looks at him like he's trash, and she refuses to defend him in any way. That is not a small inconsistency. That is the show taking the one character who is portrayed as caring and grounded and just throwing it in the trash. They spent the whole episode establishing that she knows the real Regto and that she completely believes him, even though everybody else is saying horrible things about him. And then they just discarded her character arc like it was nothing. And then they replace her with a completely different cast, which I believe are completely worse. But we'll get to them later. They spent the whole episode establishing that she cares for him and that she believes in him, only for her to turn around and spit on him right when things get intense. There is zero emotional bridge, zero struggle, just an instant shallow flip. It was genuinely frustrating to watch. She was the only person in the entire world that felt human next to Regto, but we know he's not here anymore. The show is clearly trying to convey the idea that everyone in this world is horrible. Fine, but when everyone is that terrible, especially with the one character who is written in as the exception, it stops feeling like a theme and starts to feel significantly more unnatural. Apparently, nobody in the show has the faculty to think for themselves. Now, the moment where Regto dies is visually striking, I'll give it that, but I didn't get enough of Regto, like at all, to actually care about his death. That might sound harsh, but they barely wrote him. There was almost no real build-up. We get a few soft scenes establishing that he's a father figure, and then he's gone. If I was already checked out by that point in the episode, this scene really did nothing to pull me back in. It just felt empty. I am gonna give this one a partial pass because we do get to see a little bit more of Regto through some flashbacks, and those moments help a little, but the problem is that they yanked him out of the story so early that the extra context arrives too late to make his death land the way that it should. My bigger issue though is the power scaling. Rudo sees what happened to Regto and immediately charges the masked figure. Before he can do anything, he gets punched across the room and crashes into a filing cabinet hard enough to take him out of the fight. Then we get episode 2 and the trash monsters. These things are massive. One of them hits Rudo so hard that it sends him flying across an entire field and into a mountain of trash. And then he gets up, brushes it off, pulls out a crowbar with almost no buildup, and proceeds to destroy these giant monsters. Hold on. This you? This is the same kid who just got one shot across a room by a regular-sized human and passed out against a filing cabinet. But a giant trash monster launches him into a mountain and he shrugs it off like it was nothing? Where was that durability and fight energy when his father figure was being murdered right in front of him? Nothing about the power scaling feels consistent. The writing is already shaky, and then the action doesn't even follow its own internal logic. At this point, I'm just wondering what I'm supposed to take seriously in this show. And I've already spent so much time just talking about the first 2 episodes. I still have more problems with episode 2 alone. This is gonna have to be a longer series because there's just way too much here to unpack in a single video. Injin's character design is actually pretty solid, especially the mask that he wears in the Forbidden Lands. I'll give credit where credit's due. The comedy, though, is not landing for me at all. There's a scene where Injin is trying to stay nonchalant and tell Rudo to be quiet by doing the classic zip your lips gesture. The problem is that Rudo clearly can't hear him. Rudo is being completely dense in that moment, which I get is supposed to be the joke, but it's not funny. At any point, Injin could have just stepped closer and whispered a little bit louder. Instead, he stays at a distance with a vague hand signal that Rudo has no reason to understand, then immediately turns around and starts shouting at Rudo like Rudo is the one at fault.
Ta-da!
that puts both of them in danger for no real reason. I understand that they're using this moment to show off Enjin's instrument, but the joke itself just falls flat. On top of that, this is supposed to be one of the main characters, and the first major thing that he does is try to sell Rudo off to some random gang. The scene even gets a little gruesome. What's strange is that Rudo actually ends up eating some of the trash that the gang tries to feed him. Now, that detail doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but I'm pointing it out for a reason because I'm about to make a point here in a second. Once Enjin realizes that Rudo is a giver, he suddenly wants him to join the cleaners. Fine, whatever. Then we cut to a small town and we get another joke. There's a character who looks like a man but is actually a woman, and the first time it happens, it almost lands halfway, but then the show just keeps repeating it. Oh, you thought I was a man? You thought I was a man? You thought I was a man? Over and over, and by the third time, it's just exhausting. Move on. I look less stupid than what's going on here. We also get more explanation of the power system here. They talk about anima and how you need anima to fight anima. Wow, you need fire to fight fire. Revolutionary stuff. Truly groundbreaking. I don't want to be here! Like I mentioned earlier, Enjin wants Rudo to join the cleaners, and he tells him that he's got a trainer lined up for him. And then we get this moment that feels completely off. Rudo chases a cat into a back alley and ends up grabbing what is very clearly a staff. Not a stick, a staff. But for some reason, Rudo keeps calling it a stick. And that's how we're introduced to Zonka. He's pissed and demands his property back. Rudo looks at him dead in the eyes and says, "What, this thing? It's just a dumb stick." This is the part that made me furious. They spent the entire series establishing that Rudo cares about trash. He digs through garbage. He repairs discarded objects. He treats junk like it still has value. Earlier, he even eats rotting food off of the ground while being held by that gang and acts like it's perfectly fine. That is the character that they built. And then, out of nowhere, he looks Zonka dead in the eyes and dismisses a clearly important object as just a dumb stick. That one line completely undercuts everything that they wrote about Rudo. It destroys the core of his character in a single sentence. The more that I watch this show, the more frustrated that I get. I am actively struggling to keep going. The writing just keeps making choices that actively ruin the characters that I'm supposed to care for. And one last thing that I'll say about this video, we get a comedic fight between Zonka and Rudo, where Rudo grabs a plunger that's full of whatever is left in it. He doesn't realize what a plunger is, and he doesn't realize that he's flinging that mess at Zonka the entire time. On the surface, it's kind of funny. It's a chaotic little fight, but the story goes out of its way to make the point that Rudo has no idea what a plunger even is. And I'm still trying to suspend my disbelief here, but this is kind of stretching it past its breaking point. You're telling me that a guy who used to live up in the sphere, who's seen how the rich people live, and who has spent his entire life dumpster diving, has never once come across a plunger. And you can try to argue that the stench is probably so bad down there that he doesn't smell what's on the plunger, but I really can't get past the fact that Rudo does not know what a plunger is. The idea that Rudo has never encountered a plunger before in this world is ridiculous. And this is one of those moments where I simply can't go along with it. What? A clown show. Then at the end of the episode, Enjin is laughing at both of them, which is clearly meant to be the comedic button on the scene. And after that, we get introduced to more of the cleaners. But I think I've said enough about the show in this video, and I will be making a part 2 and probably 3, 4, 5, and 6 about why it keeps getting worse. I haven't seen anything that makes me feel better about the show, but you know, we'll see. There's more that I can talk about. I'm still going to force my way through the rest of it, and I'm gonna need you guys to give me the energy to keep going, because I only made it 3 episodes in and I already have this much to talk about. There is more coming, a lot more. And from what I've seen so far, it does not get better. If you think I'm being overly harsh, too bad! This is genuinely how I feel about it. I've got plenty more to say, but I'll save that for future videos. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this one. If you like what you saw here and you wanna see more, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a future upload. And I'm gonna be doing a series on why I think Gachiakuta is trash, so be on the lookout for those future videos. Anyways, I think that's about it. So you guys stay beautiful, and I will see you in the next video. You still here? I forgot to mention, I got some bloopers. Check them out. Oh, princess. gosh. Mochi. Do your clown dance. I don't want to be here! Boo! Ah! Jump scare! What? A clown show.